Hi, welcome. Good afternoon. I'm Natalie Swachina, the Education and Residency Director here at the Houston Center for Contemporary Craft. Thank you for joining us today for our Hands-on Houston To Go artist demonstration. We're excited to add this virtual component to our kit pickup family day. That's the first Saturday of every month. Just a quick note that next month, July, we will not be holding a Hands-on Houston To Go as it's a holiday, but we'll resume our virtual Hands-on Houston To Go in August. And September, we'll kick off our Hands-on Houston To Go, our Hands-on Houston back on site at the Craft Center. So make sure to look out for those details. Today, we're really excited to watch a demonstration of the work of Joy Ude. Joy's work is featured in the exhibition that opens today here at the Craft Center, Naija Vision, the fiber and mixed media work of Joy Ude. Sorry, Joy, tongue twister here. So this month we worked with Joy to create a uniquely patterned quilt magnet inspired by her work and work that she's done in the past. And so she's going to lead us through talking a little bit about her work and talking us through the process. And we'll also leave some time for questions. So if you have any questions, please submit them on our Facebook chat, and we'll make sure we answer them as we're working through. Okay, Joy, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. Good. Okay. Hi, my name is Joy Ude. As Ali said, she had to get through it a couple of times. It's kind of hard to say it all together. I'm really excited to be here with you guys this afternoon. And I thought I would start by showing you what this quilt magnet project was inspired by, a couple of different versions of it, and then how we're going to make our own. I have some really good examples here from Natalie and from Plays, who also works here, and then my niece, who is here to the side, is also going to be making her own version too. So let me go ahead and share my screen. This sort of small workshop project came about because I was creating this installation piece, and I'll go through a couple of pictures here, in the Perlman building at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. This is supposed to be a space that after families and just visitors went through the Souls Grown Deep exhibition, it was a collection of quilts and quilted items that the Philadelphia Museum of Art had acquired from the Souls Grown Deep Foundation, and the condition was that within a certain period of time of getting these quilts, they would show these beautiful pieces of work. And so the education team at the Philadelphia Museum of Art asked if I could create an immersive space that then visitors could come and reflect and have some time to consider the show. And inspired by the beautiful quilt work in the show, I decided to create this dome space that families, visitors, anyone that happened to be there could come into and share some time. So let me show you what that looks like from the inside. Let's see, here we go. And so this is it looks very small from the outside, but there's actually quite a bit of room. So then the little triangles were quilted. Not all of them. There are 102 triangles in this dome. Did not quilt all 102, but did quilt up to half of them. So about 54 blocks were quilted and then pieced together. And then the chair covers that you see there are also quilted and put into that space. I really tried to look through the pieces from the show that they acquired. They gave me some thumbnails beforehand, and I landed on these two really beautiful blocks that are very common in quilting, which are the house top, which is, I'll show you, Natalie did a really great example for hers. And then there's also the brick layer. And if you're looking at this image now, the brick layer tend to be the ones where you see not a square, that's the house top, but these other ones that are sort of shown side to side. It's hard to show on here because I think we're looking at the outside, but let me see if I have a better picture of that. But these quilts are just really, really beautiful in the way that they share sort of not just the overall pattern, but how you can really group different types of colors together to make pattern within pattern. Quilting is such a beautiful process, and I really love, I'm going to go back to the first picture and see if I can find a better version. So this image where it has the tan and the pinks and the floral there in the very front, that's a brick layer, but it looks like just a big square inside a skinny square inside another skinny square. You can sort of move the blocks back and forth to make different types of pattern, which is a really fun thing about working with both of these patterns. They can look like a very distinct pattern. This one in the front that has denim and then sort of the green floral and the pink pieces, that's a house top, but then you get versions with the denim right above it. It's also a house top, but it looks like you have a square that's been split in two. And then I redid the same sort of quilting project, but without the strips, in a piece of mine that was separate from this PMA show. And this one was called Stills from a Distance. And I'll show just one photo of that so we can get to the making part. But this piece was actually, this is the inside of that dome piece now. This is all in Dutch wax cloth and muslin, much the same material, tying it into the show that's up here now at HCCC. This piece is actually about my experience, my husband and I's experience applying for his visa. He was born in Nigeria. And so the process of us trying to apply and have him get his citizenship over here. So still quilting, but larger scale because we're not sort of doing the house top and the brick layer, but the triangles themselves are quilted together. And I like to take one version of something I've done and sort of tie it into other ways that I'm working. So with all of that and those examples, and of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. As Natalie mentioned, I'm happy to answer any questions, but let's go ahead and get started with the actual making of our magnets. So these magnets we have, I'm gonna hold Natalie's up first, really beautiful. She went with the house top and she used her little planning sheet that the center is so generously provided with this grid. I wasn't even this organized. I did my version of it. I let people freeform. So you have the option. Natalie's is really beautiful, really planned out well. She used her sheet and I decided to do mine sort of in a similar way. Or you can go the way that Blaze did and you can go freeform, which is also very beautiful. When people did this little workshop at the Perlman building, a lot of people went freeform. And so I decided to do a planned one, just like Natalie. I have my little plan out. I'm gonna go with just 4 pieces, keep it pretty large. And then I matched my different colors of my colored pencil. You can also do it with crayon to my pieces I'm gonna put on here. I think Olivia is also planning hers out too, so we'll see what hers ends up looking like. So I'm gonna grab my magnet and you really wanna wait to take the backing off of your magnet until you're ready to put everything down. It is very, very sticky. That's not a joke. And so you want to wait till you're ready to lay the fabric down because anything that touches it will become affixed to it. I'm going to cut down my pieces using my little grid on here. Purple is going to be for purple. So make sure, especially any little friends that we have working with us, you will want to use not regular small scissors, but either larger regular scissors or fabric scissors if you have them. So make sure that you have an adult helping you cut this down. My mom is helping my niece cut hers down right now. So we're going to cut our pieces down. And just like with anything fun like this, where we're sort of making up our own thing, it doesn't have to be exact. So make this piece your own in whatever way you like. There are no rules. I always tell my students that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and cut down all of my pieces before I take off any of this backing. So I make sure that I don't, because I have done this before, I don't accidentally set down my tool or set down another piece of material on top of it. So for my red, I'm going to go with these little tie-dyed pieces. And I did not mention at the beginning that for that Perlman building piece that were all quilted, pretty much all of that fabric was donated from the Philadelphia community. Some of it was material I already had, but I asked for people to share anything they wanted. We got furniture covers, we got coats, we got different material that people just had hanging around, but we got a lot of fun material that people said, hey, I want to see this when I come to the show. And then I did have people come to the opening and point out that was my jacket. We had a really great red corduroy jacket, actually, that someone that worked in the ed department donated. So it was really great to see people finding pieces of themselves in the work too. And that's why the piece was called Patterning Community, because it really was a community effort to get the material, but also to make it. I worked with about 15 people, that's including myself, and we sort of had these sewing bees where we would get together on weekends when I wasn't also sewing after work, and we would sit and have meals and we would have coffee and we would just sit and sew this whole piece together, the little the little triangles, and then I sewed the dome together from that. We had people participate in Philadelphia, where I was living at the time, people participating in Delaware and in Texas. A couple of friends that were here where I grew up in North Texas, said ship some to me, and I sent them to them, and then they mailed them back to me before the show. So it was really great to be able to work collaboratively, and to see what came out of it. Much like the G's Bend quilters whose works were acquired by the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So I'm just cutting my pieces down here. This is sort of the boring part where you don't see any of the magic happening off video. But maybe, yeah. Cutting, yes, I'm cutting them down to match. That's a great question. It helps to have someone ask. So I've cut them. These are about, these pieces that when they're sewn, they're about 4 of these blocks wide. So 4 and 4 means that my purple piece should fit pretty well in there. It might be slightly smaller, slightly bigger, but I'm sort of using it as my guide. And then where I have it just 2, I decided that I'm going to make this little denim piece here skinnier, because I want just a little strip of the dark fabric. So I cut that one down, and now I'm going to cut that in half, because about half of that then should be 2 blocks across. So sort of using the grid as a loose guide, but also trying not to put too much pressure on myself, because again, this is for fun and we're making it however we would like it to be. And I'm gonna turn so we can also see Olivia. How's yours going? Good. Yeah, she's being much more detailed. So I'm gonna cut this down. I have one last piece. I've got my red and red for my little pieces. I'm gonna cut down now my polka dot piece that I have for the very outside. And then I can start to put this down. Now, if you notice that you have extra space after you've cut your pieces down, you can also cut little strips and you can sort of tuck them underneath. While this is very sticky, the magnet is, you can pull up your pieces, and you can sort of cover the edges that might be sticking out. So I think I've got all my pieces cut down. So now I'm going to take my adhesive off. And you can really just, these are pretty easy to peel off. You can just peel them off in the corner. I'm going to start to lay this out and see how it looks. Be very careful. I'm also watching my niece off screen. You want to be very careful with your scissors. So I'm going to start in the corner here, and I'll sort of hold this up after each piece that I put down. So here's my first one. This is the center of my house top pattern, because that's the one I decided to go with. Bricklayer would probably, with more time, be really fun to experiment with. You have to cut it down into skinnier pieces, because the bricklayer starts with basically an eye in the center, and then you work out from that. You sort of spiral around and around and around. It's a really beautiful pattern. Okay, so now I'm going to do my next color, which is this beautiful red tie-dye. And some of these pieces were sewn and they're very, very straight, but some of them bend, and that can add also a really nice pattern to it too. So there's my first little piece of tie-dye, and then I'm going to put the short, tiny piece right next to it. Just like that. So now this is the next row of my house top. And you might be able to see, maybe you can't see, but this is sticking off a little bit on the edge. What I really like about these magnetic blocks is because of how straight they are, you can cut the extra off the edge. So it's good and probably better to have a little bit hanging over. And you can just trim this down at the very end, which is how we did in our workshop at the Perlman building. Okay, so next is going to be my blue. And I can already see that my blue is not going to be wide enough. So I might steal from what I have over here. I cut this in half. And now I'm just going to stick this straight on without cutting it down, except for the height that I want. How many pieces are you? Yeah, where's that one going to go? Olivia has cut extra pieces. I think that she's going to experiment maybe a little bit. Okay, I'm going to cut it to the same height as my original one, but leave it wider and then cut the excess off afterward. Okay, so what I'm talking about here, now you can see all this extras here. I'm just gonna leave this like that. So when I finish, I can go carefully along the edge and trim that down, but I will lay its partner piece across the top. Okay, so then there's my next row, blue and blue, making this really nice corner here. And then my final piece, my white polka dots, will go across the top. And that also sticks off a little bit, which is great. And I can trim that down. So what I end up with right now is this block, purple tie-dye, blue polka dot, white polka dot up here. And now I can take my scissors like so, and I can carefully trim down. And the edge of the magnet really helps keep this straight, all the extra. Along the sides. Olivia, how's yours coming? It's really nice. She hasn't even started putting hers on her magnet. She's being very, very careful about how she's planning out her design. Looks great. She's deciding which one she wants to use. My mom is consulting with her. Okay. And so with all the excess cut down, what I end up with is purple, tie-dye, blue, and white on there. Again, this is a very simple version of this. I really like how Blaze's turned out. This is much more, I would say, lyrical in the way that it moves around, almost like a jazz or music type quality about it, which I really love. And it looks like he used every single type of fabric that was in his kit, which I really love. And then Natalie, we did the same kind of pattern, but you can see she cut her strips skinnier, and so you're able to get also a lot more pattern in there. Also just layered them. And she also used all the sewn edges coming in towards the middle, which makes a really beautiful series of lines coming across and vertical in her piece. So two different versions of the same thing looking completely different, especially because of fabric. And then one that is just really its own thing, which is also great. It looks like it could have started with the house top and then it just sort of did whatever it wants. Maybe both of those types of patterns are in there. All right, do we have any questions at all? No questions? I can go on, I can talk more. We can wait till Olivia finishes hers. Yeah, I would really like to see Olivia's too. Yes, I forgot about that. So there's this fun family day that we have right now, but also there will be a coiled bowl workshop that's coming up on June 26th. And in that one's a lot of fun. I've taught it in different ways. I've taught it at a library before with a friend. That was our first version that we did in Philadelphia as a free workshop for all ages. And then I've also taught it at Temple when I worked at Temple as a university class. Coiled bowls are so much fun to make. They're pretty easy to make once you understand the wrapping technique as well. And all you need is cotton cording, which you guys that's going to be a kitted program too, right? Cotton cording, very soft, very fun to make. You may even have seen it before. And then just regular yarn. And you can use the yarn provided in the kits. You can also buy your own yarn. The color changing yarn is always fun to do with that. And then you just need a plastic needle. The kind that we use for the big sort of cross stitch with yarn that you sort of learned with the grid when you were a kid. And so I'll be going through how to start those bowls and then how to start going around in the coils and layers. And it'll be something that you will be able to finish on your own at home. This is how our workshops, when I teach this one, always start. You learn how to start the inside, which is the most difficult part to get started. It always wants to unravel, it wants to spring out because you're trying to use tension to create the center of your bowl. And then you'll be able to continue with the instructions that you're given, build out your own nice soft bowl, and you're different. You can work with all one color. You can work in rings, which is a lot of fun as well. But that'll be happening the 26th, and it should be pretty fun. I believe that one's about 2 hours that it's going to be held. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. And I look forward to having people's questions there and also being able to show someone, show people a technique that it seems somewhat difficult, but it's actually really fun and easy. I've had kids as young as 5 learn how to make these bowls, and they turn out really beautiful. Everyone's looks different. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that as well. It looks like Olivia's finishing yours up. She's got this. She's trying to trim off the edges and be very careful. She's being very diligent about that. Okay, don't cut your fingers. Okay, I think she's got it. Here, let me use my scissors. Let me see. Okay, we're gonna cut these down. Oh yes, this is one of the thick. So if you happen to get this fabric right here, this sort of navy and cream, it is very thick. So you will want a good pair of scissors for those to cut that down. All the other ones are a little bit thinner. This turned out really nicely. You want to hold it up? Okay, hold it up and I'm gonna turn. Do you want to come over here? Olivia's gonna join me in frame. Be careful. And this is a pattern that she came up with. It looks like, she sort of used the grid to figure out her sizes, but she didn't do housetop or bricklayer either. But it's really nice. She used some of these matching colors in here. So yeah, polka dot next to polka dot, and then 2 types of stripes, and then this grid right here. And this is how hers turned out. This is really nice. It kind of matches your dress too. Very excited. Okay. All right, if there are no other questions, thank you so much for joining us for this workshop. If you do end up with questions, you can send them in. I'm happy to answer them about the show, about this work, about the coiled bowls. And I look forward to getting to talk to you, some of you, and getting to see you in this workshop later in the month as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joy. It was so fun to watch you make your magnetic quilt. And we're excited to host you again later this month for your coil making workshop. Those are registration required, so you can sign up online now. The registration is open on our event page. Joy's show opened today, and it'll be open through September 11th, so you have lots of time to come see it. The Craft Center currently is open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can make reservations, and we're so excited for you to come explore her work. Thank you so much, Joy, for working with us today. And Olivia, thank you for participating too. Thank y'all. Everyone have a great day.